So, Chris, we're going to be talking about your film that you directed and written as well, Lemonade Blessings. I gotta say, phenomenal film. I loved it. I think a lot of people will connect with all of the characters because all of the characters are so rich and so raw as well in terms that you can connect with them. What inspired you to bring this? I don't want to use the word controversial, but what inspired you to bring this topic to fruition like that people can see like, hey, this happens probably the day to day in a normal kids, family, parents. What inspired you to bring this to fruition?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think you gave like a perfect answer right there. It's just the fact that it does happen and the fact that the story was kind of personal to me. Like the first draft of the script just came from me writing down like memories from my youth and then pairing them together and then scripting those and slightly fictionalizing them and bringing them together. I do think that, when we lead with what's like honest to ourselves, people can tell, they can tell when something's bullshit when a writer is writing from a place of like not having experienced something versus like having a little more closeness to a subject matter. So honestly, I wrote it because it felt like the most authentic thing I could do at this point in my life, and everything kind of bled from that. All the themes that are a part of it, intergenerational, conflict, like what does it mean to raise a kid, and these conditions of worth, like when you feel like maybe your parents or someone else won't love you if you don't meet their criteria, going through sexist patriarchal Catholic high schools, having first loves, the ways in which we hurt each other, being putty in your own hands and shaping yourself to be whatever shape you think the person in front of you wants to see so that you're worthy of love. All these things were just a part of my life and they're things that mattered to me. And so that's kind of just they ended up in the film because yeah, it was just kind of like what was on my mind and heart when I wrote it, I guess.
Okay, and that's amazing because again, like I mentioned, that my experience with the film, seeing all these characters felt so raw, and the storyline, with the main character, I felt so connected because I come as well from a religious background family,
Mm.
and having and as well divorced parents. So
Oh, yeah.
having the fact that I got to see like, yep, that used to happen to me a lot.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's so meaningful. I'm glad you had a meaningful experience with it.
I loved the film. I just gotta say, phenomenal film, 100%. Chris,
Thank you
really,
so
really,
much.
I think it's gonna touch a lot of people's like lives, and as well, a lot of kids might or teenagers might feel super connected with the film because it like I say, it's really raw in the most greatest way possible that I can mention. Moving forward to that, my next question would be: were there any challenges throughout filming?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, independent film is fucking brutal. I started prepping this about 18 months before we shot, and me and my producers, we essentially had to teach ourselves how to make a film from the ground up. So, I went to film school twice, right? I double majored in psych and film in undergrad, and then I went to USC's master's in film. So I've been, taught film for like what, like 7 years in an academic setting. And even then, having thought about what it was going to be like making my first feature for literally 7 years straight, nothing really could have prepared me for the amount of minutia and things that you have to overcome. It's not just like making the LLC and applying for the tax credit and registering your script at the Library of Congress. It's really like dealing with bureaucracy that is the most frightening thing. You're a small film, nobody knows you, nobody cares about you. So every email you send, you're at the bottom of people's priority list and you have to fight for space every step of the way. And it is so hard to have to constantly ping people and be like, hey, we need this, hey, we need this, whether it's like your auditor who's like doing your tax credit audit or SAG when you're trying to get your deposit back. We didn't know about the SAG deposit. So like, you know, 40% of all the monies that you pay to actors gets taken by SAG, and you actually cannot draw down that deposit. So what that means is, if you're paying, say, $200,000 to your cast, SAG is taking $80,000 of your budget, and you cannot get it back until 3 months after you wrap. But if you're an independent film, you're not a studio. You don't have cash flow. You have only raised just enough money to make the film. And so you run into this insane cash flow problem because you're like, well, I only raised exactly as much as I needed, and now SAG is $80,000, and where am I going to come up with the rest of it? So it's literally all these things: locking locations, hiring people, getting lawyers, doing the fair use clearance. Right? There's copywritten stuff in the film. I had to do fair use analysis. I had to, write down legal arguments for why we were allowed to use the stuff that we were using in the film that was copywritten. So I think the real challenge, if I could boil it down, is how do you maintain a sense of creative spirit while being buried in the entrepreneurial, logistical, financial, bureaucratic hurdles that are required to make an independent film. And it's really hard, and it's still going on even to this day. I'm in a nightmare with my DCP and figuring out the closed captions for Tribeca. So it's like it's really balancing those elements that I would say was the most challenging thing. The creative elements were hard, but it's spinning those plates and context switching that was the hardest, I would say.
Okay. Yeah, I've in between the different other interviews I've seen the struggle when you do an independent film is just the cash flow. It's really difficult.
It's so hard.
But this where I think, but how do you feel now that you are in Tribeca Film Festival 2025 as well? You are nominated as well in this film festival. How does it feel that at last you have your film out there? People like myself and other press are looking at it, giving you a lot of good feedback. How do you feel now that you're this close to the premiere and being nominated as well?
It's crazy. God, I have so many feelings about it. Like I'm a bit of an anxious person, and so I try not to celebrate early because I sometimes have a scarcity mindset where I feel like it could all disappear, and I sometimes am bad at like rewarding myself or like nurturing myself because like when I was making it, I was like, if I can just make this one film, then I can relax afterwards. But now that I've made it, I'm like, fuck, if I can make a second good film, then I can relax afterwards. And so I'm really struggling with like just staying present and enjoying it because I'm kind of a strategic person. I'm thinking about like, how do we sell it? Who are we going to sell to? Who's the distributor going to be? Are they going to care enough? Like, what's it going to make at the box office? And like, I think the feelings I have are simultaneously, like I'm almost close to tears with some of the nice things you said in this interview, and so that's really nice. I'm holding on to that, but also I do just kind of have an anxiety disorder, and I'm like a hamster on a wheel with my thoughts, and so I do need to temper that a little bit and just try and find a way to enjoy this. But I think I'm having more and more positive emotions just because I'm interacting with people like you who are just saying such kind things from the heart. And I really appreciate everything you've said in this interview.
That's amazing. And is there any moment or scene on this film that you always go back to?
I can answer that in a couple different ways. I would say emotionally, in terms of capturing a really interesting tone that I'm really proud of, the final argument between John and Mary, I I love this scene so much because it really occupies a tone that I could see how some people could watch it and feel horrified. Some people could watch it and feel cathartic, like, yeah, go, go, go. Some people could watch it and feel sad. And I think maybe even some people could watch it and feel like it's maybe a little funny because he's really like triggering her and poking and prodding at her. And I think the real skill that I'm trying to embody as I grow as a filmmaker is how do you make something that allows people to have multiple different valid reactions to what they see. I don't know if you watch like Nathan Fielder's The Rehearsal, but I'm so struck by how incredible season 2 of The Rehearsal is because it literally interrogates what is it for something to be funny? And like, how do you interpret someone who's framing themselves as funny, but trying to do something serious? And I do think that writing that line and that tone is probably one of the most satisfying challenges that I could have. And I think we really did a good job with that fight scene. So from a tonal perspective, I'm really proud of that scene. From a visual standpoint, I absolutely love the note passing sequence and the panic attack sequence. The music, I fucking love our composer, Daniel. He did such an incredible job. And just, I storyboarded those things a year before we shot them, and they really came to life exactly how I had imagined them. So from a visual perspective, I'm so proud of that. There's sequences that I love for the improv, the cafeteria scenes, as well as like the when John first meets Angelo. I love the improv in those scenes. So I would say all of those I keep coming back to. I love those scenes so much. I watch them again and again. Like I'm like, yes, this is so fun. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. I'm sorry, I'm bad at picking one thing. I'm
No
somewhat a
worries, no
spoiler
worries.
guy.
I love it when there's like multiple scenes or multiple moments of the film that you enjoy. Now, this would be my final question for you today. If you could describe Lemonade Blessings with one word, what would it be?
This is really hard. Let me think about this for a second. I think I would describe it as conflicted. Like it's a story about a child of divorce who's pit between two people who he wants both of them to love him. And the film itself, from a tonal perspective, often switches in a cheeky way between drama and comedy with some of the hard cuts between the scenes. So I would say it's a film that is like conflicted, or yeah, dichotomous, I guess. I don't know, but dichotomous is like a head ass word, so I wouldn't use that word. I think conflicted is better. Yeah. But thank you for that question. That's a really hard one.
No, thank you, Chris, for giving us the time to talk about Lemonade Blessing and your experience and how much this film means to you. And I hope that one day we can sit down face to face
Oh,
and have a
please, yes.
talk of any other future endeavors. But thank you so much for giving us the time to talk about your film.
Oh, of course, John. It was such a pleasure. Thank you so, so much.